All right. Hello and welcome to the Breakthrough Show from breakthrough.digital. My name is Doyle Buehler, and I've got a great guest today who's Ronan Leonard. I'm going to introduce him in just a moment. And we're going to be talking about some cool stuff about masterminds and accountability and all that good stuff that we need to get done online and in our business as well. So, as I mentioned, my name is Doyle Buehler. I help leaders, entrepreneurs, and disruptors scale, grow, and transform their business and sales with digital leadership. And I'm the author of the new book on digital strategy called Breakthrough. I'm here to show you how you can create a digital business advantage and start on your journey of business transformation. As I mentioned in today's show, I'm talking with Ronan Leonard from Melbourne, Australia, and a mastermind expert who helps businesses connect with masterminds and with getting important stuff done, also known as accountability, which is going to be bringing up a great conversation. And Ronan is from the company called Eccountability. So welcome to the program, Ronan.
Thanks, Doyle. Thanks for having the show. We've been bouncing around on LinkedIn together for a while, so I feel like I know you, but it's the first time we've actually spoken.
Yeah, no kidding. It's so funny how that works, right? Like you connect with somebody and then it just leads you, they're kind of there and you listen to them and read them. And then it's like, hey, wait a sec, there's something else we can be doing here. So yeah, so thanks for agreeing to come on to the show and talk about what we said, masterminds and accountability or accountability. So first off though, Ronan, tell us a bit about yourself.
Long, curious, winding route to get to where I did. In my very early 20s, I got a job on cruise ships traveling the world, and the very first ship I worked on sunk off the wild coast of South Africa.
Oh, wow.
Huge storm.
You
Captain
survived.
left. Yeah, I survived, obviously. I've got a lot of good stories to tell out of that. For 9 years, I continued to work on cruise ships. And then I met my lovely wife, who's Australian, emigrated to Australia, and set up my first business, which was an events-based casino party, very, very niche. And I did that for over a decade. And then about 4 years ago, I got into my very first mastermind, and this light bulb moment went off when I thought, why wasn't I doing this before? Why aren't more people doing it? So for the last sort of 4 years, I've really dived into masterminds and what it means and how it can help people. And that's led me to founding Eccountability.
Oh, fantastic. So just can you give us a background on a mastermind? How do you define it? Because I know there are some various definitions out there, and I just want to see how do you define it?
Yeah, it's quite loosely defined. Napoleon Hill talks about when you come together with two minds in a spirit of harmony and cooperation to complete something, you create this third supermind. So effectively, what you're doing is you are trying to use everybody's information to come up with a better idea than you originally had. So that's the rough sort of definition. There's a couple of variations on that, but effectively, I mean, some of them could be peer-to-peer, and some of them could be led by somebody teaching information with people sort of still bouncing around. But effectively, yeah, you're working together in a group to try and help each other to solve problems and get better ideas and move forward.
But why is that important? Like let's cut right down to brass tacks here.
Well, effectively, most people leave a company and start their own business because they want the freedom. The reality is the complete opposite. All of a sudden, you've got no manager, you've got no KPIs, you've got no one holding you accountable. So we get lost in this rabbit hole of shiny objects syndrome. We chase the wrong things. So there's almost nobody there, and we've left because we don't want a manager anymore. And yet the manager is the most important thing to keep us on track, to get us on our goals, to get us where we really want to be. And it's the reason that coaching is booming. It's the reason that the gym PT instructor thing is booming. Somehow we seem to have lost this connection between what we want to do and actually doing it. And I think it's partly because we have so much stuff going on at the moment. We're pulled in all these directions, and we lack the discipline, myself included, sometimes to actually get the stuff that we're supposed to do done.
I'll put my hand up for that too. So why do you think we're not as accountable as we should be? Like, what is it? What's stopping us?
Well, there's three components to most small business owners. There's the technician, the doer, there's the entrepreneur, the dreamer, and there's a manager. And when you ever see the Venn diagram, the perfect sweet spot is the bit in between, where they all come together, and that's your sweet spot. the reality is that most of us, if you're a great technician and you're in flow, that's what you want to do all day. You don't want to be doing the marketing, or you don't want to be doing the manager stuff. So you're too much in one quadrant and not the other. So it's a question of trying to find some help to balance those things out.
So where do you think, so are most people then in that sort of technician stage then, or, and how do we bust through and making sure that we are accountable to ourselves?
Well, I think most people are in that technician thing. That's why they leave a company and say, I can do this better. I can do this technical aspect better. To pull them in, it requires discipline. It requires stepping outside of your comfort zone. And I give a great example. My local gym, they've actually just closed now. So for 7 years, I've been going there. For 7 years, he's been talking about updating his website. And he's an absolute subject matter expert in the gym industry. What he doesn't know, nobody knows. And his gym has now closed down because he refused to do the marketing that required to keep that business going.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. So in other words, if you're not accountable to yourself, even not necessarily, taking out the mastermind equation from it, what's going to happen? I mean, your whole business can fail because of it.
Yeah, look, all our fears are stopping us from our desires. There's always that balance in it. And people say, look, I need more motivation. Often there's the fear factor for everything: starting a podcast, cold calling people, researching the market, whatever it is that stops you. And it's only when that desire is stronger than your fear, then you'll finally sort of break through and complete what you want to do and take those uncomfortable decisions.
Yeah, and allow that to help you move forward as well. So do you have any tricks that you use besides, I want to get into mastermind shortly, but do you have any sort of personal tricks that you use to kind of make yourself more accountable to that spectrum that you talked about?
A big chunk of it is around habits and rituals, because a goal is just a thought bubble, just an idea. Yeah, I've got this goal. When you break it down, it needs to become some kind of ritual and habit. So I use the Rockefeller dot system to track about 15 habits a day, from setting my top 3 goals to trying to pause my inbox, to Pomodoro technique, all sorts of small little things that help me be just a little bit more productive.
And not watch and not watch and not watch your feed on Facebook, as we talked about too, right?
Yeah, so it's a constant battle, because it's an amazing world out there and there's amazing information, and we have all this information at our fingertip, and yet businesses are failing at a faster rate than they were 30 years ago, despite having all that information.
Yeah, no, so true, so true. Okay, so let's talk a bit more about masterminds then. So from your early definition, it was basically getting like, what would it be, colleagues, fellow entrepreneurs? Like, where do these people come from? Or are these clients too? Like, well, obviously we're talking from a bit of a coaching perspective too. So is this clients? Is it, how can you define that?
Bit of both. So I teach 2 sides of the masterminds. One, I actually facilitate mastermind groups. So people that want some more accountability, have got goals that they're just not hitting, and say, look, I just need some help. I don't know what I don't know. Can I see if I can sit in a group and bounce ideas off them? Realize that most of your fears and your doubts, that everyone's got them. It's not just you, those frustrations, no matter where you are in business. And secondly, I teach niche experts to download their IP and run their own masterminds, because whatever you do in life, there are people that want that shortcut. So if you've been in an industry for 4 or 5 years, even your business, Doyle, there are people that go, oh, what you've done is amazing. How do I do that? And you go, well, you can spend 5 years chugging away, or I can teach you the shortcuts and get you there with my playbook in 8 weeks to get you on the road. And keep that accountability with you, because each week you'll meet me and we'll talk about where you're at, and we'll add context to content. So what I often say is that we are overwhelmed with content, but
absolutely,
yeah, and it's lacking that context.
Yeah, so we don't have the context. Then we have the content, but some people prescribe to the fact. There was an event in Sydney with Gary Vee, and he's saying that you've got 100 pieces of content. That's not enough. Like, So is he, what point is he missing then?
Well, it's fine for him, but is it the
Yeah,
right content? If only 5 people are watching your blog and reading it, or podcast, then why you can't amplify 5 times 100? You've
yeah,
got to, I suppose, improve some of that content. So
yeah.
I think it's often quality over quantity for the right
Mm,
people. But
yeah,
the other thing is, everyone follows people like Gary Vee and thinks he's the messiah and he's the answer to all their problems. Just because he got where he did doesn't necessarily mean anyone else is going to be like that. So I
no,
think
no.
sometimes you've got to look at a contrarian point of view and say that's fine for him, it's great for his business model, but it's not the right strategy for me.
So what would be, when would I want to implement a mastermind? Then you're talking earlier about building the context of it. How do I know when a business should say, hey, why not, type thing?
I think most people get to the point where they're pretty frustrated with their results and know that they've, I hate to say it, they've reached as far as they can, and it's the Peter principle. You know,
Yeah,
the analogy of that in a business you're promoted to your level of incompetency. Uh, it's the same in a small business. You reach a point
yeah,
where you don't know what you don't know, and you can't learn it quickly enough. So
yeah,
you take a shortcut. One of the shortcuts is you can read, 20 books, 30 books a year. And you can try and look at things that you're not pretty good at. It might be marketing, you not be expertise, or you can surround yourself with other people that might have some complementary skills, and you can help each other.
yeah.
So I like to see people have reached the ceiling and say, look, you know what, this isn't quite working for me. Let's sort of swallow my ego a little bit, myself included. I'm in a couple of masterminds and say, I haven't got it all figured out. Let's see. There's other people out there that have done what I want to do, and I think they can help me.
So I guess it's that recognition, though, that awareness to say, hey, yeah, I need to do something like this because, I would like to become more accountable. I'd like to get more done. So is that sort of the point where you can say, yes, I'm ready to do a mastermind?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, some people could join a mastermind the second they start a business, and
Mm,
and and that's great as well. You're really hungry people, but the reality is most people think they can figure it all out. They'll, as I
yeah,
said, myself included, for 10 years, I wasn't in a mastermind. My only sounding board was my wife going home and saying this happened and offloading on her. And she's a
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
smart cookie, but she's not an entrepreneur. So, and you want a relationship where you're not talking about work all the time. So finding other people that can champion you, that can get you, that can kick your butt when you need it, give you a bit of
yeah.
tough love is really important in small business, because otherwise there's just nobody.
Okay, no, that's good. So would you recommend for business owners who are in that stage of, yeah, I kind of don't know everything, I need to figure things out. Should they join a mastermind or should they start their own mastermind or both?
Could do both, absolutely. I mean, it's free to start your own mastermind. You can do it. There is quite a lot of work involved in chasing everybody up and setting an agenda and setting up whatever software you go into. And like anything, it's required work. If you've ever been to a fundraiser, they require a lot of work. If you've ever been set up a meetup, there's a
Yeah, yeah,
lot of energy required in that to keep it
yeah,
going. But you
yeah,
can do it for free, absolutely. Look around and say, rather than, as I said, everyone talks about Gary Vee as his poster boy. Rather than trying to think, well, all my problems would be solved if I only had 4 hours in a room with Gary Vee.
yeah,
Look at the
yeah,
people that are one step ahead of you or two steps ahead of you, have done what you
yeah,
want to do in the last 12, 18 months, and go, okay, this person's just done it, it's fresh, let me reach out to them. How can I help them? How can we work together? How can we form a little group and add value and create our own little mini mastermind?
Okay, cool. So that's from a participatory type mastermind. What are the steps somebody would need to take to start their own mastermind? As
That's a
sort
good
of
question.
from
Yeah.
a coaching consultant, that sort of thing.
Well, effectively, I see a mastermind as your proof of concept before you go into a course. Most people tend to dump all their IP into a course,
Mm.
only to find that most people don't complete it. I think the stats are like 85% of people don't complete a course. And secondly,
Wow.
without double checking with the audience, you don't know if it's actually what they want. And
Yeah,
so a
yeah,
mastermind is your very first minimal viable offer to the market to say, hey, Kate, do you want to learn what I know? But also, again, taking your ego aside, maybe what you want to teach is not what your audience wants to know. And that two-way interaction in a mastermind gives them the feedback the first 4 or 5 times they run it, to answer all the questions from their audience, to work it out themselves and iterate before they've dialed it down pat and say, okay, I've spoken to my market, I've spoken to 50, 100 people, I've been through several masterminds with them. This is what the market wants. I now can drop out because I've pretty much answered all the questions, and now I can productize this or coursetize this as a course.
Yeah, that's fascinating that you've actually sort of put that in perspective for myself and for my audience as well. Like it sounds like what you're saying is that we've kind of have backwards, right? We should be looking at a mastermind first and then looking at sort of our product or our service or that sort of thing. Fascinating. Why do you think that that's sort of the way things have evolved? Is it again because people, you don't know what you don't know type thing?
Partly that. It's very, very similar to launching a business. A lot of people launch a business because they've got a great idea and they never test the market.
Yeah.
So I was watching Shark Tank about 18 months ago, the Australian version, and this guy came on and he'd spent $250,000 on this software that tells you which of your calls are personal, which are business. And as they said on the panel,
what does it do again? Sorry.
It differentiates between personal calls and business calls. It splits up your phone bill.
Okay.
Right.
Nice.
Now, here in Australia, you go to your accountant and say 80% of this is roughly 8% is business. And they go, okay, they just write that off. Nobody wants to pay for that and nobody needs it because it's the tax office don't care. So he only had to ask 5 people, would you, is this a problem for you? And they go, no, my accountant does this. If he'd asked 5 people, he wouldn't have spent $250,000 building that software.
Yeah. Huh. Sounds like a lot of startups are in that same position, though.
Oh, look, we're all guilty of making those assumptions. Absolutely. Again, myself included. I started my very first business without testing the market. So it does happen. But we also know that the best way to build a product that people want is to ask them. And a mastermind, once you've already, especially people that are already subject matter experts, all they have to do is go out to the market and say, hey, come into this mastermind. A, you've got to confirm they'll pay for it, they want it. And secondly, they're going to answer all those questions and ask all those questions. So you get that market research while being paid for it and a chance to iterate. So that's the 2 reasons why I think it should be done first.
Oh, fascinating. Yeah, that's a excellent perspective. Thanks for sharing. So what sort of one of the last things I really wanted to talk about was what steps or what sequence should somebody who wants to set one up go through, like just sort of an overview of what strategy should they look at to developing a mastermind?
Look, the very first thing is what you want to get out of it. So start with the end in mind. We're going to run this for a year. It's going to be weekly, fortnightly, monthly. Who do I want in there? What sort of strategy do I want? But start with the end in mind. And then at least you can define success. At least you can know who to invite, what you're going to do, how you're going to go about it. So a little bit like a goal. You set that as a goal. This is my end goal to achieve this. And then you break it down into the steps of what will that look like? Who do I need to invite? And put your bones and your structure around that original sort of concept.
Okay. Fascinating. All right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Ronan. Really appreciate you sharing everything with us about accountability and about masterminds. How can we get in touch with you?
The 2 best places to get in touch with me is LinkedIn. I'm often on LinkedIn because I do like the fact that it's more of a collaboration on there than Facebook. And accountabilty.io is my website through the contact page.
So I've just posted up the LinkedIn connection, or just obviously search on LinkedIn for Ronan Leonard rather, or go to accountabilty.io. Excellent. All right, cool. So with that, really want to thank you, Ronan, for joining me today, and thank you everybody for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like, share, or leave a comment. Go to breakthrough.digital to find out more about the book and get yourself started on your journey of digital transformation. My name is Doyle Buehler, and I will see you online.